So I was hanging out with my sage old neighbor Tom, and he started to talk about sacrificial anodes in water heaters. And this was kind of intriguing because the sacrificial anode actually corrodes instead of the inside of your water heater. And I thought, well, this is pretty important. So I watched a couple of videos from guys that have old houses, and then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and sure enough, it's even used on ships and such. So then I went out to my water heater and looked pretty good from the side view, and then I looked at the top. So I'd never really looked at the top of my water heater, and so I thought, well, what could be causing this? Yep, there it is. So it looks like the plumber that installed the water heater a long time ago must have made a mistake, and that pipe's been leaking onto the top of the water heater for probably 15 years. So now I clearly got two problems. I got to fix this leaky pipe, and also I've got to replace this water heater. So for the plumbing around the water heater and for the leak, I thought I would try using these press-to-connect fittings. This brand's called Sharkbite. And if you watch their videos, boy, it looks really, really easy. And indeed, if you have good access, it is pretty easy. Okay, maybe not that easy. In this clip, I prepare the pipe, and then I try and put the fitting on once, and it gets stuck. And so then I have to remove it, and then try again. The second time it goes on a lot easier. But it points out one cool thing about these is that they can be removed, which is a really useful feature. Okay, so yeah, this is the new plumbing fixing that leak, and it's been doing really well. But this connector here is actually a sliding fitting, and so you have to press it on and then push it across to try and mate with the other side. It's a useful fitting, but in this situation where it was a long reach, it was very, very difficult to get it to mate. So I don't know that I'd try it again here, but in other circumstances I could see it being really useful. Another frustration I had with these Sharkbite fittings is that they have this little plastic insert, and if it stays well centered like this, it's no problem. But if it gets tilted off to the side like this and you're trying to press the copper tube into that, it can press up against that plastic, and it can be really frustrating because you don't know that it's pushing back against you. I'm sure if you use these a lot, you get into a method that makes sure that you don't have that frustration. But as a newbie, it was kind of frustrating. So that was kind of a long-winded way to say that I used the Sharkbite fittings for the leak and for the hot water installation, and though it had a learning curve, in the end it worked out okay. Okay, now on to talk about this water heater. So this is a tankless water heater, so it heats the water on demand. As the hot water is demanded from a faucet or a shower, it heats the water as it flows through. The obvious advantage of this is that it doesn't heat water when you don't need it. It just heats it when you need it. So in theory, there's no lost energy. But one thing I found a little irritating about this is we use mostly single handle faucets. And when you're using a faucet and you just turn it on, there might be a mixture of hot and cold just because you've left the lever wherever it is. And if there's almost any level of hot demanded from that, the water heater will kick in. But of course, since you're only going to have the faucet on for a few seconds, there's no way that hot water that just got generated will make it all the way to your faucet. It'll start to fill up the pipes in between, but it won't make it to you. And of course, something similar happens with a water heater with a tank, in that it will start to deliver hot water out of the tank, but that tank acts as a buffer, and so it won't cycle as often as an on-demand a tankless water heater will. So I'm wondering whether or not I can train my family to make sure that the handle for the faucet is all the way to the cold side before they turn it on, but I'm kind of doubting that's going to work. So regardless, here's the new water heater all installed. It's been working well. Here's a shot of the plumbing underneath. It's not as complicated as it looks. The cold water comes in, the hot water comes out, the gas goes in, there's an emergency relief out, and then there's also a condensation out. We've only been using this hot water heater for a few weeks, so it hasn't really seen a heavy load yet where you might have multiple people taking showers and somebody using the faucet or the dishwasher and all simultaneously. So I'll report back as to how it's going in a few months. But for now, I'm going to call this saga ended and this project a success.